The galaxy had always been a place of conflict, with endless battles between powerful alien species, each vying for control, resources, and dominance over the stars. The galaxy's great powers, like the Varith Empire, had crushed civilizations, with ease, leaving little in their wake. Earth, a young and relatively isolated planet, had never attracted much attention from the galaxy's most formidable empires. The humans had sent their ships into space, yes, but their military might was still in its infancy compared to the ancient, well-established forces scattered across the stars. The idea that Earth could pose any real threat to a galactic empire, like the Varith, was laughable. They had never even faced a serious war in space. Most of Earth's technology was outdated, clumsy, and not even close to the advanced weaponry of the Varith. The Earth's armies might have been strong on the ground, but their weapons weren't powerful enough to challenge a force like the Varith Empire. When the Varith fleet appeared on the outskirts of Earth's solar system, no one could have predicted what would come next. The Varith warships were enormous, glistening behemoths, their hulls built from alloys that could withstand attacks from the most advanced weapons. These ships were bristling with weapons that could obliterate cities, vaporize entire fleets, and leave nothing behind but the vacuum of space. The Varith general Threx stood at the helm of the flagship, his sharp, alien features glowing in the control room's low light. His race was known for their brutal efficiency in warfare, having conquered countless worlds, many far older and more advanced than Earth. The Varith had no intention of negotiating or offering mercy. For them, Earth was just another obstacle, to be crushed underfoot. The general's voice echoed through the command center. "Send the message," he ordered. "Prepare for the eradication of this pathetic world." The Varith army began its advance, sending a wave of ships toward Earth. At first, they thought the humans would panic, perhaps attempt to fight back with the best of their primitive weapons. But Earth had no idea what they were about to face. The world's military forces scrambled to form a defense, but it was clear they stood no chance against the sheer scale of the Varith invasion. Ships were deployed, but Earth's fleet could barely make a dent in the Varith's shielded vessels. In space, the battle was over before it even began. On Earth, panic spread as the first alien craft breached the atmosphere, sending shockwaves of fear throughout the world. Military command centers worked overtime, trying to launch counterattacks, but nothing seemed to be working. Earth's weapons, their greatest hopes, were useless against the Varith's technological superiority. Cities were reduced to rubble. Within hours, and military bases were overwhelmed. The Varith ships descended upon Earth's capitals, their massive guns firing with pinpoint accuracy. Threx and his fleet watched the destruction from above, their laughter booming over the comms. "These pathetic creatures thought they could stand against us?" Threx scoffed, watching as his troops obliterated the human defenses. For the first time in their history, Earth faced the reality of total destruction. It seemed inevitable that the human race would soon fall to the might of the Varith Empire. The Varith, with their towering warships, weapons that could disintegrate mountains, and armies of genetically modified warriors, had already proven too much for the humans. Their laughter echoed across the stars as they moved closer to their victory. To them, Earth was just another footnote in their grand conquest, a fleeting moment in the endless march of time. But even as the Varith celebrated their easy victory, something they hadn't accounted for was stirring on Earth. Behind the scenes, the governments of Earth had prepared for a situation like this, though no one had imagined it would come so soon. Hidden away from the prying eyes of the Varith, a secret program had been established, known only to a select few. This was not a typical military program. It was a last-ditch effort to preserve humanity's chance at survival. The humans had a weapon, a warrior unlike any the Varith had ever encountered. The humans' secret weapon wasn't a fleet of warships or a battalion of soldiers. It was a single individual, trained in a forgotten art, an ancient discipline passed down through generations in the shadows of Earth's history. She was known as Kari, a ninja. The term ninja might have sounded absurd to the Varith, who had never encountered such an individual before. To them, it seemed like something out of Earth's ancient mythologies, a child's tale spun from the depths of history. They had no idea that Kari, a descendant of Earth's ancient warrior class, had been trained since birth in the deadly arts of stealth, speed, and precision. Her training included every conceivable aspect of combat: hand-to-hand combat, the silent use of weapons, the art of disappearing into the shadows, and the ability to strike quickly and decisively. She was Earth's most deadly asset, and her existence was known to only a handful of military leaders. The government had kept her hidden, unsure whether to reveal her powers or use her only in the direst of circumstances. Now, that moment had come. As Earth's cities fell and its forces were decimated by the Varith onslaught, Kaori made her move. Her training had not prepared her for space battles, but it had prepared her to do what no one else could. While the Varith laughed and believed victory was assured, Kaori's steps were already being felt. She was swift and silent, a shadow among shadows. Kaori infiltrated the Varith fleet without detection, slipping past their superior technology and finding her way into their heart. The laughter of the Varith, once so confident and mocking, began to quiet as they realized their ships were being sabotaged from within. Their most vital systems were failing. Their leaders were mysteriously disappearing, and their communications were being intercepted. Kaori had become their nightmare, and they didn't even know it yet. Every move she made was calculated, every strike delivered with deadly precision. The Varith, who had dismissed Earth's warriors as weak, found themselves suddenly outmatched by the unimaginable power of one human. The tide of the war had begun to turn, but the Varith, intoxicated by their arrogance and blind to the true threat, refused to believe it. For them, it was still a joke. That is, until the real battle began. Too many darkness cloaked the corridors of the Varith mothership, where cold metal walls stretched endlessly, lined with glowing alien symbols and patrolled by towering guards bred for war. Inside this floating fortress, fear had never taken root, until now. Whispers began spreading among the Varith soldiers, murmurs of a phantom slipping through steel walls and striking down warriors without a trace. No cameras had caught her face, no sensors had marked her heat signature, yet high-ranking officers were disappearing one by one. Doors were found melted open in strange, precise shapes, and control panels sabotaged without the usual signs of hacking. Systems that had never failed before were flickering, falling apart, becoming unreliable. The mighty Varith ship, once a symbol of unstoppable force, had started to feel like a haunted ruin. General Threx stood inside the command chamber, staring at the flickering data streams, his claws tapping the metal floor in frustration. His ship, the pride of the Varith fleet, was being infiltrated by something, or someone, who defied logic and explanation. Reports came in with disbelief: dead soldiers with no signs of struggle, security drones slashed in half by what looked like a single clean cut and strange markings left on the walls, ancient Earth symbols etched in swift, flowing strokes. Threx growled as he examined one. This is no machine," he snarled. "This is a predator." Still, many among the Varith commanders dismissed it. They believed Earth's population had been crushed, their forces scattered like dust. How cause? Could one of them get aboard the flagship? It was impossible, at least by their understanding of war. They had always fought armies, never shadows. Kari moved like smoke through the enemy ship, guided not by advanced tech but by centuries of honed instinct and focus. Her breathing remained silent, her heartbeat slow, her steps so soft they vanished before they touched the floor. She had studied the patterns of the ship, memorized the alien symbols, learned how the Varith communicated. The ship was alive, with movement, but to Kaori, it moved in predictable rhythms, like a massive beast that did not know it had already been wounded. Her weapons were simple by galactic standards, a blade forged of carbon steel folded thousands of times, a few hidden throwing stars, smoke bombs crafted from Earth's rarest minerals, but in her hands they became tools of absolute destruction. She needed no laser rifles or force shields. Her greatest weapon was her ability to strike without being seen. In the lower decks of the mothership, a special laboratory had been set up to study Earth's biology. Scientists dissected the bodies of fallen soldiers, scanning their organs and bones, mocking the primitive nature of the human body. One of them, a senior bioengineer named Skrull, recorded a message describing how humans were soft, slow, and clearly designed for subservience. Minutes later, that recording ended in static. Skrull's lab was found empty, the glass shattered, his lifeless body suspended from the ceiling by a thin wire, one of his own dissection tools buried deep in his throat. The markings on the wall this time were written in blood. "This soft body bleeds you." From that moment on, the laughter stopped. Panic spread like fire through the command levels. Soldiers were ordered to move in squads. Heavy weapons were distributed, and detection drones flooded the halls. Yet Kaori slipped past them all, unseen, unheard, untraceable. Each move was precise and purposeful. Every kill had meaning. Her goal wasn't to destroy the ship, but to unravel it, piece by piece, from the inside. With her deep knowledge of pressure points and structural weaknesses, she caused engines to overheat, life support systems to short-circuit, and weapons storage rooms to combust without a single alarm sounding. What once had been a perfect machine of war now began to cough and stutter like a dying beast. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the remaining military leaders noticed a strange change in the Varith fleet's behavior. The attacks had slowed, coordination between ships was breaking down, and the once unbreakable enemy formations began to falter. Surveillance satellites picked up unusual activity from the mothership, a flickering signal, strange energy fluctuations, and sudden power outages across different sections. Analysts scrambled to make sense of it. Then, one of the encrypted channels the Varith had used suddenly broadcast a short, chilling message in perfect human language. "The storm walks among you." The message repeated once, then the channel went dark. Inside the ship, General Threx realized the unthinkable had happened. His enemy wasn't an army. It wasn't a missile barrage or hacking attempt. It was something that walked silently, hid in shadows, and bled his empire from the inside. He ordered his elite guards, giants twice the size of a man, armored in indestructible exoplates, to sweep the ship, to find this ghost. They marched down the corridors like titans, stomping with weapons ready to burn the air itself. Yet none of them returned. One by one they vanished, and when their bodies were found, their armor had been pierced in the one place no one thought to reinforce, the neck, just beneath the helmet. Each death was a message, each symbol on the wall a warning. You see strength. I see weakness. Kaori had learned to fight enemies who relied on size and strength. She had been trained not just to defeat her enemies, but to make them doubt their own power. Fear was a weapon she wielded well. As she reached the ship's central core, where the main power relay pulsed like a massive, beating heart, she paused. The corridors behind her were littered with chaos, yet in the silence of the core room, she knelt, breathing deeply. She drew her blade, its edge glinting in the dim light. With a slow, steady motion, she slid it into the main relay, not to destroy it but to reroute its energy, just enough to overload the navigation controls. She left the blade behind, driven in deep, vibrating with power. By the time Threx reached the core, the power had failed. The ship jerked in space. Systems crashing, lights flickering red. Kaori was already gone, leaving behind only a single line carved into the metal wall. Laugh again, and I will not stop. The mothership spiraled, drifting off course, its systems blind and confused. Threx stood there in silence, realizing what had happened. His empire had not been beaten in open war. It had been humbled by a single soul who walked with the silence of death. And far away, hidden in the shadows of Earth's last stronghold, Kaori stood watching the stars. Her face showed no joy, no pride, only stillness. She had done what needed to be done, not for glory, not for vengeance, but for the future. The galaxy would remember this moment. The Varith would never forget the day they stopped laughing. And somewhere in their empire, the stories had already begun. Stories of a warrior in black who came without warning, struck without sound, and vanished like wind. The Varith Empire reeled from the silent storm that had swept through their pride, their flagship reduced to a crippled ghost drifting in orbit. News spread across the Empire's systems, transmitted not in official communiques, but through frightened whispers in smoky barracks and hushed councils. Stories of an unseen assassin, a human warrior from Earth, had spread like wildfire. Soldiers who once mocked Earth as primitive now double-checked the corners of every corridor, looking over their shoulders, afraid of what they might not see. Recruitment slowed. Troops grew anxious. Fear, once a stranger to the war, hardened. Varith now made its home inside every ship, every fortress. Across the Empire, leaders gathered in secret to discuss the anomaly. Warlocks of war, commanders of fleets, and the alien scholars of conquest all agreed on one conclusion. Earth had birthed something beyond understanding, something their scanners and strategies could not predict, something ancient and alive with purpose. What they had faced was not a soldier, not in the way they defined it. It was a force, an idea given form. While the Empire struggled to steady itself, Earth's resistance began to surge with new hope. Underground bunkers once filled, with doubt now buzzed with purpose. The warrior who had turned the tide, though known to only a few by name, became a symbol. Some called her the Shadow of Earth. Others whispered the name Kaori with reverence, though they never saw her face. Her mission had not ended with the mothership's sabotage. In truth, it had only begun. She moved like a specter between colonies and occupied zones, striking Varith command posts, disrupting supply chains, and spreading confusion deeper than any full-scale assault could. Her path became legend, and wherever she passed, she left behind only silence and a symbol drawn in, swift strokes, an earth kanji for balance. The mark spoke to something the Empire could never grasp. Harmony between chaos and control, stillness before the strike. In one of the outer colonies, a planet the Varith had renamed Drava 4, an outpost sat nestled beneath a jagged ridge of black stone. It served as a command center for 7 nearby systems, tightly guarded and rich with resources stolen from Earth's captured worlds. One night, the sky above Drava 4 flickered unnaturally. A patrol unit noticed it first, a brief distortion, as if the stars had blinked. They reported it. The report was ignored. Minutes later, the base went dark. No alarms sounded, no explosions, shook the ground. Instead, one by one, every officer inside the command tower was found unconscious, alive, untouched, but each with a blade's edge resting against their throat, held in place by strands of woven silk. And on the central console, again, the mark, balance. Panic erupted. The outpost evacuated half its forces. Within the week, 3 neighboring systems fell to Earth's reclaiming hands, no longer reinforced by the outpost's strength. Kaori had not fired a single shot, yet an entire region of Varith control had crumbled. The Council of Commanders demanded an answer. Their finest tacticians called for a counter-assassin. A creature known only as Vron, once imprisoned for war crimes against other empires, was released and offered command of a hunter fleet. Cold, precise, and known for his brutality, Varan accepted the task with no expression. His goal was simple: find the ghost, study her movements, and end her. With every moment, Kaori continued her path. Her reasons remained unknown to many. Even Earth's leaders, hidden deep beneath its scarred surface, wondered about her motives. She did not respond to commands, nor did she ask for help. Her actions seemed guided not by orders, but by something deeper. A personal vow, perhaps, forged in fire during the first days of the war, when she watched her family perish beneath alien fire. Vron began his hunt with quiet confidence. He traced the destruction left behind, calculated patterns in the timing, location, and style of Kaori's strikes. He guessed she traveled alone, light, using stealth over force. He respected it but did not fear it. On a desolate moon called Kelvar, where an abandoned mining colony held a forgotten Earth artifact, Vron laid a trap. He sent false communications, making it seem like the Varith had rediscovered a hidden resistance bunker beneath the surface. He placed a decoy squad of elite warriors inside, dead already but posed to look alive, luring Kaori into a web of mines, motion sensors, and ambush troops hidden in the shadows. Everything seemed perfect, and yet, hours passed. The sensors remained untouched. Then, a single light in the command post flickered. Vron turned his head slowly. His soldiers were gone. No alarm, no sound. Just empty suits of armor, one by one laid out on the floor in perfect rows. A quiet symbol marked across the central screen again. Balance. And behind him, he felt the air shift. Kaori stepped from the shadows, not with a roar, but with the stillness of wind before a storm. Her eyes met his, calm, unshaken. Vron struck first, fast, brutal. His blade danced with sparks, but she was faster. Every move she made seemed like it had already happened before he thought of it. His strikes missed. Hers did not. And when he finally fell, gasping, his final thought was not of failure, but awe. He had faced many warriors, none like her. Kaori did not kill him. She whispered a single word in an ancient tongue and vanished, leaving Vron bound but breathing. A message again, mercy as a lesson. Let them know that fear was not her goal. Understanding was balance, even in war. Her path was not vengeance. It was transformation. The galaxy would not be won by force alone. The Varith had built their rule on terror, on weapons, on domination. But Kaori's way, the Earth way, was different. Strike only where needed. Leave behind no wasted life. Plant the seed of fear, but also the chance for change. And so, the legend grew. Across 1,000 worlds, both conquered and resisting, tales of the ninja spread like fire. The war had taken many lives. But now, it had also given rise to something else. A whisper in the night, a guardian in shadow. The galaxy, vast and cruel, had begun to listen. And somewhere, beneath stars, now watching closer than ever, Kaori walked on, silent as always, her mission far from over. Peace never arrives loudly. It tiptoes in silence, often hidden beneath chaos, fear, and fire. Across the galaxy, where once the Varith Empire ruled with an iron grip, a strange silence had begun to settle. Not the silence of domination or submission, but the calm that follows after storms have torn down what no longer belongs. High above the skies of Eltoran Prime, the last great Varith capital outside their home system, a sea of warships floated like ghosts in formation. But they did not fire. Their weapon systems, once always primed, now remained cold. No new orders had arrived in weeks. Generals, once proud and loud, met in hushed, anxious circles. The shadow of Earth had turned the tide, not through mass attacks or overwhelming fleets, but by shattering the very spirit of the Empire. For every ambush set, she walked away untouched. For every trap laid, she escaped before the net even dropped. And with each strike, she left behind not just fear, but an undeniable truth. The old way was dying. In the heart of Earth's final, underground stronghold, a meeting took place under dim lights and reinforced ceilings. Commanders from scattered human colonies, rebels, scientists, and even alien sympathizers gathered around a circular table. For the first time in decades, the chatter held hope. The shadow, known now by her true name, Kaori, had done the impossible. One warrior, trained not in machines but in silence and discipline, had shifted the balance of a galaxy-wide war, and yet her face remained unseen to most. She had returned only once, to deliver a stolen data core filled with Varith secrets that allowed Earth's forces to sabotage entire fleets. After handing it over, she vanished again, like mist at sunrise. Some called her legend. Others doubted she was even real. But none could ignore the results she left behind. Back on Eltarin Prime, change stirred in dangerous corners. The Empire's High Council, fractured and afraid, decided to gather in a single fortress. The Obsidian Keep, a black tower rising above molten cliffs and guarded by the fiercest remaining warriors. Rumors said the Empress herself had arrived, a figure none had seen in over a century, kept alive by ancient biotech and cold fury. Her presence was meant to restore fear, to crush rebellion with one last act of domination. She summoned every sector commander to her side, planning a grand speech to rekindle the fire of conquest. But deep beneath the keep, moving through molten tunnels and vents designed for heat regulation, a lone figure slipped past scans, guards, and barriers. Not with brute strength or advanced cloaking, but with ancient steps, practiced breath, and perfect timing. Kaori reached the core of the tower as the speech began above. She did not carry bombs or viruses. Her mission was not destruction, it was confrontation. With her blade sheathed, she waited in the shadows until the speech ended, until the Empress returned to her private chamber. And then, like a whisper in a dream, she stepped forward. The Empress, tall and strange with half-metal limbs and glowing, eyes turned slowly. No fear showed in her expression, only cold curiosity. Kaori bowed, not as a servant, but with the grace of one who respected the strength of an enemy. The Empress spoke first, her voice a strange mix of machine and memory. She asked why the ninja had come. Kaori answered with no threats, no demands. Instead, she offered a truth. The Varith Empire had already lost, not through war, but through fear turned inward. She had revealed their weakness, exposed the lie they believed, that power comes only from control. She explained that Earth had not survived because of weapons. It had endured because of will, unity, and the strength of individuals who understood balance. A long silence passed between them. Then the Empress, who had crushed a dozen star systems with a word, asked what Kaori intended next. Kaori looked her in the eye and spoke of peace. Not surrender, not submission, but a future where the Varith could lay down arms and begin again. Not for Earth's benefit, but for their own survival. The Empress, proud but weary, stared long and hard at the woman before her. Then, in a moment no one expected, she removed the crown of bone metal from her head and placed it upon the floor. The guards outside never heard a sound. Hours later, the doors opened, and Kaori walked out alone. She carried no trophy, no scars. But behind her, the Obsidian Keep dimmed its lights for the first time in 1,000 years. Within weeks, ceasefires spread across the stars. The Varith fleets retreated from occupied systems. Earth's people emerged from bunkers and tunnels to see sunlight once more. Worlds long thought lost sent transmissions again. Hope, once a dying ember, caught flame across colonies and alien allies alike. Kaori never returned to public view. Her final message, left encrypted in a transmission burst from a remote moon, was only a single line: "When peace needs a shadow, I will return." Many believe she still walks among the stars, watching, waiting. Some say she trains others in secret, teaching forgotten arts to prepare for what might come next. Others believe she has finally found peace, resting somewhere beyond war. But all agree on one thing. When the galaxy laughed at Earth's warriors, it forgot that true power often moves in silence. Not with explosions, but with footsteps that leave no mark. Not with speeches, but with action. And not with fear, but with calm purpose. In time, children across dozens of planets began to learn the story, not of giant warships or death rays, but of a single ninja who changed everything. They learned of the Earth warrior who never shouted, never showed her face, but brought down an empire built on fear. And when they played, they drew her symbol in the dirt, and they whispered the word that brought the galaxy back from the edge: balance.